Ay na lang ako. Oh yeah, dito live stream recorded lang to na ipopost ko yun sa YouTube afterwards. So, yun, anyway. Tuloy na natin yun, yung sinasabi mo, sir.
Alin? Ayun, so yun nga. I think I've said my piece naman. So, ewan ko.
Hindi,
I'm not
ang
that.
ngayon kasi
Ano
gusto
ba
mong
yung issue
patakel
pala?
natin is,
Ano ba yung issue ni Theo dun sa kay Isko or
Yung, hindi kasi yung mga, hindi, it's not really more like isko. Kasi yung pinag-usapan namin si yung kalala mo si Justin, yung yung panay yung panay
Justin?
Twitter space yun,
hindi,
panay
hindi naman
Twitter
siya,
space yun.
hindi masyado ano sa Twitter sa circuit.
Wala akong pakialam sa inyo. Anyway,
Okay.
oo.
Basta may Twitter space, karamihan ng mga niya, makaapo at makadigong. At
And
pag
then,
nagsasalita sila madalas, nakakabalas. Kasi ako lang usually ay, to. Bad, bad, something like. Tapos narinig ko sinabing isa sa kanila na palpak daw yung campaign ni Lenny. Mas palpak nga yung campaign ni Isko eh. Parang gusto parang halatang gusto na niya magpatama sa mga makaros.
yeah, I think to be fair,
Like nung pinag-usapan na namin nung one time na pag-usapan yung pagnanakaw, sabi, walang kaso si Marcos na pagnanakaw. Jesus Christ, sobrang documented na yan eh. May Supreme Court case na nga. Woo! Sorry.
Ano lang yun eh, parang equivalent lang yun sa ano lang yan, ang equivalent yan ngayon, yung kay former President Trump, yung sexual harassment na charge against, sa kanya, when he sexually harassed Eugene Carroll and the defamation.
Oh well, I have quitted everything to,
Teka, wala ka.
Nawala ba ako? Hello, check. O baka lag ka? O ba? Hindi narinig. Okay na ba? Okay na ba yung ano? Okay.
Ayan, okay na. Okay na yung audio, okay na.
Yun nga,
sige.
Yung equivalent nga kasi nung kay former President Marcos Sr. is yung kay Trump naman. Trump Sr. naman na case na may nahatulan na nga siya ng sa sexual harassment. Hindi pa rin nadadala yung mga Trumper loyalists. Parang wala akong pakialam. Siya pa rin yung pambato namin.
Yun, totoo yun. Siguro, naalala ko sino kung anong mas hirap daw ng fact internet. Marami rin talaga. Ay, hindi, wala. Blank. I still support. So, yun yung rin niya. From 2024, dito, Marcos pa rin makaunol. Right?
Yeah. I think the anger has parang kumulo na yung dugo. But anyway, I the moment I talk to people now, I don't really it takes me longer to hate a person, especially now that I'm an adult. So anyway, ganun talaga. So yung mga lumalaban ng kunyari maka Duterte sila, maka Marcos, let's just live with that. These people know that they're lying to their teeth, and they're gonna get their just desserts because of that. So I don't know what we're gonna talk about anyway. So
Hindi, ito kasi yung talagang pag-uusapan dapat kanina pa po eh. Which is yung sa yung sa Russia and Ukraine. Yung mga
Russo-Ukrainian
idiot.
War.
Yeah, and the NATO, all of that. Hindi na ako
Vatniks.
mag-share
Vatniks.
screen kasi ang lag ng laptop ko. Bagal ng i3.
Oo.
So, yun. Pag-usapan lang natin yung mga tatanga-tangang mga Pinoy na gipit ng kumakampi sa Russia.
Ayan, yan. Teka, gusto mong kasama natin ulit si ano eh. Sino? Si Aaron yun, di ba? Kasi ang dami, narinig
Si
ko,
Aaron, sayang
marami
eh.
siyang nasosyo kanina eh. Sayang talaga eh. Sa ano? Wala eh. Tawag ng voltage 5. Ako naman, tawag ng voltage 5.
Bala ko kasi every Friday na yung ano eh. Itong...
Makakapunta ba siya? Makakapunta ba siya?
Papunta na siya.
Ayun,
papunta na siya actually. Sayang si
Yun,
Oyo
yun.
biglang nagtago na lang kasi may nagpapahinga.
Pero pupunta daw siya mamaya. Sana naman makapunta siya mamaya.
Aaron, ito na, papunta na siya.
Oh, good.
Wait lang, baka nandito. Naantay ko lang yung i-click niya yung link tapos pag nakita ko na siya and ayun na, okay na. Ang ina yung mga ano kayong mga gipit na sa pagiging anti-US. Mga late.
Imperialismo! Ibagsak!
Alam mo kayo, parang hindi, parang hindi imperialist yung China. Sasabihin ng iba sa kanila, wala imperialist din China. Talaga ba? Ulul.
Yung mga ano naman yan eh, mga tatay supporters yung mga yan eh, mga tatay big supporters yung mga yan eh. Hindi, kasi i-insist ng mga natives na, we hate all imperialists equally. We all hate imperialists equally. Even though mas malakas yung budhi nila sa mga Kano kumpara sa mga Chino. Let's just see that. Let's just face that. Nagtitiyandi kami ng China Lions eh. Pero alam naman natin, mas malakas yung budhi, mas malaki yung, mas mainit yung dugo sa mga Kano kaysa sa mga Chino. Okay? You don't have to deny that. Right?
Pero hindi naman nila mapanindigan na maging patronizer ng Chinese products.
Naku, huwag naman ganyan. Ibang usapan na yan eh. Alright? Pag yung mga boycott Chinese products, kahit nga, even as far as 2007 napag-alaman na imposible daw talaga na mabuhay ka na walang made in China.
Oo, wala na eh. Inano na tayo ng WTO dito eh.
World Trade Organization.
Okay lang sana na nagkaroon ng PNTR with China pero kaso I would be hypocrite to say that kasi nga nakikinabang din ako sa and the same logic goes. Hindi, pero ito seriously. The same logic goes dun sa mga right-wingers na Pilipino. Na anti-China kuno pero tumitikol sa titi ni Elon.
Ano yun? May mga I feel like that's more really restricted to para mga tech bros lang yung mga yan eh. I don't think I see that a lot.
Oo nga, pero may mga pa rin, may mga nagpa-praise pa rin kay Elon na mga egot na mga Pinoy.
Okay.
Especially yung mga kakilala ko, nakalaban namin ni Sir Kurt. Tangina, anti-China kayo, yung poon nyo, may Tesla venture sa China, gago ba kayo? Kasi makaklaim silang anti-China daw sila tapos natutuwa sila dun sa pag-take over ni Elon sa Xer. Gago ba kayo?
X-Waiter.
Yan yung mahirap sa inyo.
X-Waiter.
Ngayon, tapos ngayon, hindi na...
Ayun, si Aaron daw, pupunta daw.
Tapos hindi nila makriticize si Elon.
Totoo yan.
Tapos ano, diba? Yun yung nakakainis doon.
Ako, sa akin talaga, parang, okay.
So, hindi nila ma-police yung site nila. Bisit eh. Ang sakit sa ulo. Ang sakit sa ulo ng hypocrisy nyo. Putang ina kayo. Kaya nga gusto kong dinodog show yung mga engot na yun eh. Wala kasing hindi matatauhan ng mga yan pag di pinapatulan. Lalo na pag mali-mali info. Hindi, pag mali-mali info sa favorite kong topic. Tanga-tanga kasi ng mga yun eh. Yun na si Aaron!
Guys, sorry
Ayun, Aaron! Yun! Kasi pag-uusapan din natin yung ano eh.
I was in diplomatic.
Pag-uusapan natin yung ano eh.
Okay na. Ano yan, Aaron? Sorry.
Ako kanina, I was engaged in diplomatic talks ako kanina.
Anong diplomatic talks yan?
One of the, related sa romance. Keme. Fuck.
May chick yan na eh. Nanais ko eh. Nilaglag na. Nilaglag na.
Eh, at least, di ba?
Sige. Sige, ito yung ano ko na. Former, medyo serious naman na. So yun yan, nakakainis lang talaga tong mga ano na to, no, mga Pinoy na to. Mga gipit na politically. Para maano lang, para lang makadangkon din sa US, both left and right. And sinabi ko naman na yun dati, which is so yan. Ang ano yung another dog whistle. Ikaw, Aaron, anong ano mo doon? Parang thoughts mo doon?
Ayan na, tungkol na to sa Russia uli.
Wait, can you paki-pinpoint anong specific topic ba?
Hindi, yun nga. First of all na muna yung about sa crisis sa Ukraine and sa Russia.
In general, I guess?
Oo. Yeah, in general terms.
If you look at it in grand strategic terms, nananalo ang Ukraine and yung West dito because if you look at the figures at the map, it's slowly pero surely na itutulak nila yung Russia. Ngayon, of course, a lot of people don't really look at it in a strategic sense. They look at it at very short and narrow sense. Andyan yung mga detractors na they would say na buhu, bakit ang bagal ng offensive? Buhu, bakit may nawawalang mga Leopard tanks and whatnot? Considering the history of human warfare, madalang yung mga offensive na mabilis, especially if the enemy had time to prepare. Ngayon, yung Russia, they may have made a shitload of strategic mistakes, pero that doesn't turn them into retards naman, incapable of adaptation. So, those months na naging frozen ng front, kasi naghihintay pa yung Ukraine ng armas, they actually had time to do a decent job of defending their land corridors. Aerial corridors, not so much, kasi we can see na Russia is now experiencing drone attacks in the mainland, in the motherland mismo. Like, isang araw nga lang absolute meme material. Yung ibang jets nila, Ukraine managed to destroy some jets or at least damage them. Yung gamit nila is literal na cardboard na UAV na dinonate ng Australia. They modified it to contain explosives ata. It's a special kind of humiliation when you're the second best military in the world tas yung kapitbahay mo eh literal kang binomba ng cardboard na UAV. Yeah, it's otherworldly levels of humiliation. Um, whatever end this war has, except yung nuclear na end, which is unlikely naman. I think Ukraine in the West is going to win because the West, for its part, NATO has finally gained the fire to forge itself anew, especially during the time nung before Putin invaded. Actually, there was an argument out there if Putin did not invade, if he just maintained the status quo, baka in just another 20 years baka humina todo yung NATO because if you look at the figures, yung tinatawag nila na peace dividend nung natapos yung Cold War, when the Cold War ended, NATO basically lost its purpose to exist. Kasi who are we to defend against na, 'di ba? So all around the world, all around the West, I can't say the world kasi after malusaw ng USSR, nabaha yung kalahati ng mundo, especially yung Global South, ng mga surplus weapons ng USSR. So, most of the West actually started de-arming. Like, ang dami sa kanila nagpaliit ng armies because, for all the warmongering chants ng mga galit sa West na mahilig daw sa gera ang West, in reality, the West was actually very averse sa war because, it is a profitable business but only to a very small part of the sector, which is yung arms industry. When it comes to large scale war, no one really wins, even yung companies, because unlike small intensity conflicts like Afghanistan, and other insurgencies na pwede mong pagkakitaan and controllable siya within a region, interstate and continental wars can spiral out of control. So the West won because they now have a new purpose to work together, and arms production is actually going up ngayon. Kasi nagkaroon ng wake-up call ngayon sa NATO yun and within sa NATO states. France, for its part, gusto nila ng strategic independence kasi alam nila masyado silang umaasa sa US, and the US and Europe has a very different view on China. The European Union wants to continue to trade with China pero they are still averse when it comes to the political ramifications, but they still want to trade. The United States, however, since nakikita nilang next na aspirant sa position nila yung China, they are doing everything in their power to subvert and weaken the Chinese. And for the Europeans, that's bad for business because business partner nila China, and they don't
Okay.
want their business partner being killed off by a jealous hegemon. So that's why Macron wants that. Also because kahit alay mo yung United States, you still have to acknowledge that you two have different goals
May
sometimes. And
tsaka may difference pa din sa pagiging military and political allies and to being
yeah,
economic partners.
correct. So,
Which is yung point ni Sagar kasi dun dati is na the most of European countries are quote begging to lick the boots of President Xi Jinping, which is in a sense parang totoo rin naman. Pero to be fair, US din naman ang nagsimula ng begging ang pagbubutlicking in my view economically, 'di ba? Because of the PNTR with China,
yeah,
letting them in WTO. So ayun.
yung mga oo din. Ano kasi the West has this very weird flaw na sila yung matatawag nating mga delulu. They literally believed na by incorporating China into the global infrastructure, mababanlawan yung kanilang mas extreme na political leanings. Like if we show the commies na capitalism works, everyone wins, they would not want competition and subjugation ng fellow states nila. That's what they did din sa Russia. They thought na by, the USSR took its badness with it nung namatay siya. Pero,
Yun
in
nga, yung yan
retrospect,
sinira, no?
yeah,
As long
in
kasi as
retrospect,
may money as long as there's money around wala talaga.
yeah, they did
'Di
not
ba?
understand na
Saka
yung
sinira ng
pagiging
ano din eh.
ng
Kung dahil sa ano din yun eh, dahil sa war on terror sa Iraq, na-strengthen, ay, okay, teka, parang, ah, naku, parang, itong pagiging world police ng Amerika, hindi gumagana on their favor, pwede nating i-take advantage to. Pwede tayo mag-rebuild
Capitalize.
ng ano natin. Tapos pwede natin pagtawanan sila, at least kami, di kami nag-invade. Yun. Di ba?
hmm,
Parang ganun eh.
ano pa ba?
Right?
Yeah.
Hindi, sige, Aaron, tuloy mo.
The
Sige,
West
Iran,
has
tuloy mo, tuloy
won.
mo.
Ukraine also won kasi before Russia invaded, not gonna lie, Ukraine was a literal shithole. Like yun yung poor man it was the sick man of Europe. Democratic institutions are rigged, democracy itself clientelistic and oligarchical. Everything was just absolute shit. Nung nagsimula yung invasion, it basically gave the Ukrainians a undeniable and unstoppable need to align themselves with Europe and therefore become more democratized. So even if Ukraine ends up ceding land o kaya stopping its alam mo naman, stop war, hindi,
Nagkaroon daw
they
ng
don't
redemption
die.
arc din daw si Zelensky. Kasi kasi
Yeah.
nung before the invasion, mas nagiging ano na daw siya, mas nagiging more authoritarian, mas
Very
nagiging controlling na
lackluster.
daw siya. Ha?
Very very lackluster ang performance niya. Unlike nung palabas na siya ang star, na nagawa niyang sayawan yung oligarchs and populists and everything in between. Of course, reality is often different sa So, ayun. Yeah, he is being criticized because he has links nga sa oligarchs and he has been seen to be soft on corruption. Pero, you know, given na yung society mo nga ay hardwired na to be driven by oligarchs, how can you have a spine nga sa kanila when they own the system? Yung war na yan, by virtue of it being a survival, a very fight for your existence, it basically overcome yung rules nung rigged na game sa Ukraine. It basically broke everything apart and it gave the Ukrainians a chance to rebuild their society into a
Mhm.
more rules-based
Egalitarian
and
na.
democratic society. Yeah, yeah. Of course, nasa sa kanila 'yun if magre-revert sila sa old ways nila o magiging mas aligned na sila sa Europe later on. Pero it is promising kasi the first step of being a better society has already been done for them by the war, which is nagkaroon sila ng imperative to overcome yung systematic issues nila and to strive to overcome them as long as Russia for its part, well, it's already dying before the moment na namatay yung USSR. It it no, actually it was already dying nung panahon pa ng USSR because
Ha.
it basically has a pocket hegemony. Like yeah, everyone was getting resources, ganun. But more or less the economic output of the USSR was basically heading sa central lands, which is yung Belarus, Russia, Ukraine, and other regions. Pero pinakamarami sa Russia basically napunta. When the USSR disbanded, Russia Russia was already killing the USSR kasi nga, because besides besides sa inflexibility ng kanilang economic model, andyan din yung bloated nila na military-industrial complex.
Oh
As in
yeah, yeah,
literal
yeah,
na
yeah.
bloated. Yeah, there is a declassified CIA report about that which is specifically lined nga na bukod sa corruption within the Communist Party, yung isa pang reason kung ba't tumaob yung USSR is they basically can't keep up sa arming process ng West, you know.
Tapos puta,
That is
nagkaroon pa
their
ng Soviet-Afghan War.
yeah, yun pa.
Di
And
ba?
then Chernobyl.
O yun, oo.
So, yeah, when that happened, basically sealed na ang fate ng Russia. It is going to die maybe within our lifetime and split into a
Magbabalkanize, I
Wala,
guess.
has done it.
baka,
Basically,
baka,
just,
or baka maging East-West Germany.
Not
China
really.
probably
More
will
like,
want a piece of it. Oh, wala si Aaron. Shit. Okay. That was, ayun, okay. Kala ko nawala ng tuluyan.
okay lang.
Kinabahan ako dun.
Hindi, parang, dito siya yata
Eh,
uli. Wait lang. Baka,
nawala,
baka naglalag lang.
nawala ako, sorry.
naglalag. Si
Okay.
Ayun.
Sir, natahimik na.
Asa na nga ako? Ayun. Kako, when they did the war, it basically just hastened the inevitable at andyan na lahat ng indicator eh. Falling infrastructure, basically brain dead na democratic institutions, mga autocrats na unwilling to cede power, demographic decline, economic decline, like they are very well on their way to die as a state. Um, the only thing keeping them alive is well, basically yung at least in their minds what's keeping them alive is yun nga yung sinasabi ko kanina na unrealistic aspirations nila na they are still within their rights to subjugate and dominate nations because they are a imperial power, parang yun yung Russian version ng white man's burden. They think na they have the right to claim the Ruski Mir, ika nga nila, the Russian world. Basically the entirety of Europe kasi nga they are an imperial power, but of course, the reality begs to differ. So we have in a literally and figuratively, the West has won. Ukraine has won in most aspects. We are still yet to see kailan mayayari yung war na to and ano mababawi nila and ano ba mangyayari sa kanila after ng war. If magiging full-fledged ba silang Western na bansa along with its values and strong institutions o
Yeah,
magre-revert siya sa
I think they
pagiging
will.
backwater. Yeah, let's
Backwater
let's see.
I
post-Soviet
think they
state,
will.
gano'n.
Pero,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think it, wait lang. I think they will, pero but not to the extent na yung talagang super kasi marami pa rin Ukrainians for
Yeah.
sure na want to keep their own traditional identity values kung saan man nila nakuha yun. Parang ganun. That's how I
Yeah,
see it after
for its part,
this war.
Ukraine is still very racist and homophobic.
O, tamo.
Pero, um, due to the war, those views are being challenged na and you know, basically the EU is gonna do its strategy na. You know, most of the nations that the EU incorporated na part ng former Soviet Union weren't exactly welcome to liberal ideas din noon. They basically just blackmailed and gaslighted those nations into adopting reforms para makuha nila yung benefits. Kunyari, yung sa Poland, they are currently being put under pressure ngayon ng EU because they have some certain human rights issues and
Oh
corruption
yeah, the
within the
anti-LGBT stuff. Yeah.
legal system. Mhm.
Mm.
So
Well,
basically, ang gagawin ng
ito lang
EU
yung
dyan
akin on
is, oh, no,
Hindi,
bro, ano
ito lang
yung,
kasi yung akin, like I said. Parang under President Zelensky's government, I don't think magiging shithole lang Ukraine. I think they've learned their lesson, probably. If there's any lesson that they need to learn to, I think they had learned it already. So, ayun, that's why I said na
yeah,
baka malabo na mangyari yung panggagago ng EU if in a
yeah, tas malabo na din, ano,
Ukraine-Russia war.
malabo na rin mag-elect
Malabo
sila ng
manggago.
authoritarian na leader at they already had that with Yanukovych noong 2014. So let's hope na lang na they support a transition to stronger institutions and well, regarding dun sa kung anong views ang kukunin nila, bahala sila kung gusto nilang i-retain yung conservative views nila o mag-move sila sa liberalism, but that's for their people
Well,
to
I think
decide.
they would try to balance that. I think they'll try to balance that. Para hindi sila mapaghinalaan talaga na Nazis, the Ukra-Nazis.
Oh yeah, yeah, Dave Bandera, di ba?
At
Yeah,
para
totoo. Pwedeng, wait
sige.
At
Sige.
perfect segue to sa pag-uusapan natin uli after the pag-uusapan natin yung mga Vatniks na Pilipino sa social media. I would not just on social media but also outside of it. Kasi pag-uusapan natin ng ang isang certain has-been action star. But anywho, yun nga. Number EJ ko nga magsimula kasi 'di ba, yun nga, yung mga Pilipinong Vatnik yung pag-uusapan natin dito eh.
Yung mga tulad nila Jan Swing, nila Rigoberto Tiglao, yung mga iba pa.
Oh God, Bobby, that piece of shit. Ayun, si Sas.
Diba?
Oo.
Well, madami pa mga anonymous pa sa Twitter. Like,
and also, wait, really? Wait. Vatnik si Bobby? Alam kong pro-China siya eh, pero ngayon ko lang na Vatnik siya. Ngayon lang.
Parang may kasi daw may Vatnik si Bobby Tiglao eh. I mean, I can be wrong, pero that's how I see it. Wala ka lang comment about sa Ukraine-Russia war.
Pero yun nga eh, no? And just to be clear, eto, right to ano to eh. This place goes right wing saka left wing, ano din eh. Kahit nga mga leftists eh, hindi biktima din ng pagiging batik. Ikaw, di ba, na-share ko na sa iyo kanina to a few days ago, right? EJ, di ba, si Reyna Balmores, chairperson ng Bahaghari, the local not them LGBT organization, di ba, nasimula ng gera, siya eh. Nagpalaganap ng pro-Putin propaganda na neo-Nazi neo-Nazi, mga neo-Nazi yung Ukrainian government, gano'n.
Diba yun yung organ na puro LGBTQ people yung laman?
Yun nga, si Baghari, not them nga na LGBT organization.
Bro,
not them.
The absolute fucking irony. Imagine mo, pinipraise niya yung isang
Hindi niya pinapraise si Putin specifically. Pero sinasabi lang niya, sinabi niya doon sa ingat tayo kasi may mga neo-Nazi sa Ukraine. Yung government, neo-Nazi sympathizer yung mga yan. Yung sabi niya.
So parang pineframe niya na black and white yun, ano? But who exactly has white and black dun eh? Pare-parehong gray.
And then there's di ba? Si EJ, alam mo yung si Raul Manuel, the now famous Kabataan Party List
Si Raul
kongresista na sinabon si Sandro Marcos. Raul Manuel, he posted on his Facebook na bulletin from the goddamn Donetsk People's Republic. Right? Yung mga puppet republic ng Russia, no?
Yeah.
Teka, nasa yun eh? Nasa... Ha?
Yung mga People's Republic na yun, that is basically the legal loophole that Russia uses to formally claim territory.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, by basically saying na these guys want to be independent, they have the right to be independent. They should be independent in the name of insert whatever, Pero in reality, yun nga, they are funded, armed, and managed by the Kremlin. So, if you're asking bakit pa sila naglalagay ng mga People's Republic, that's why, because that's their legal loophole. If nanalo sila sa gera to escape prosecution, they can just lean on that idea na gusto maging independent states based on ethnic differences and issues. Parang Yugoslavia, pero not as self-deterministic as the people sa loob ng shithole na yon nung nag-implode siya. No, I think those people you mentioned, yun nga, I think nandun lang talaga sila sa bandwagon na yun for the sake of contrarianism. They see the West as the greater evil. They support whoever goes against the West and the world order na meron sila, even though the people they are supporting are literally way worse dun sa kinokontra nila. But of course, through their ignorance na lang din, they are not aware na they are supporting movements or people na would end their existence without hesitation if ever sila nagkaroon ng kapangyarihan.
Okay. Pero wait lang. EJ, kilala mo si Toby Tocondria, di ba? Isa sa mga maiingin na tibak sa Twitter.
Sino yan?
Toby Tocondria. Isa yun sa mga maiingin na tibak sa Twitter. I think you've heard of him. Right?
No, I don't.
Oh, I don't think you know. Okay.
Kasi sabi ko nga sa'yo, I'm out of the loop pagdating sa kasi.
Twitter politics.
So, ayun. I apologize for
kasi nakita ko yung Reddit account niya eh. Wait lang, teka, nakita ko yung Reddit account niya eh. Hanapin ko yung Reddit account niya eh. Kasi nagsalita din siya tungkol sa Russo-Ukrainian war, and he has a bit of and his takes on it are pretty sus, mate. Teka lang, hanapin ko. Wait lang. Hanapin ko. Wait lang
sir, andyan ka pa sir? Sir Kurt? I think andyan naman nata siya. Tahimik lang.
Okay. Ay, naku. Nahanap ko yun eh. Pero basta may sinabi siya na I feel bad for the working class of Ukraine, but not for the government that perpetuates this war. Yung selective sympathy. Ganun.
Ganun talaga. Wala tayong magagawa doon. Anyway, natahimik na si Isa.
Okay lang yan.
Easy siya. Ang stupid din talaga niyan eh. Sino ba tong isang to?
Ayun o, ito. Ito, pareho kasuklam-suklam ang US, Russia at Nazi sa Ukraine. Imperialista ang NATO at Russia, biktima ang working class ng Ukraine.
I mean, well,
Contrarians.
some professors of mine would actually, ayoko manlaglag, hindi naman ako nandalag. Naglalaro ng fantasy basketball.
Ano yun, mga NDs ba sila? Age?
Hindi naman, parang ang hirap, hindi ko na-explain.
I see.
Hindi ko lang tinatanong sila, parang hindi naman lahat ng Pulsay Pops ko ganun actually. No, not. Basta hindi ko mapaliwanag, talagang ano lang ako. Hindi ko lang talaga tinatanong.
It's alright.
Ano tong mga to? Anyway, about this sa mga ano na to, sa mga Filipinos na to na kumakampi ng palihim or talagang obvious sa China and Russia, doing it for social, cultural, and political purposes. Okay, kung yun yung gusto nyo, kampihan nyo yung China at Russia kasi supposedly freer ang China and Russia. Pero saan? Saan free? Eto pa, like yun yung problema doon. And yung pagtanggi nila na walang free na mas dismantled ang freedom of verbal speech and expression sa China and Russia. Lalo na pagdating sa mga social media accounts doon na pumapasok, of course, especially yung Twitter, Facebook, 'di ba? Yung ganun, tapos sasabihin ng mga ibang Filipinos dito na sa tingin nila sa US, but the US yung ibang Filipinos pala, not the ones na talaga kumakampi sa China or Russia, na bakit sa US nagsa-censor din? Ito yung sinabi ko kasi kanina dun sa isang solo ep ko, which is, ang sabi ko, if hindi kasi is-censor yung mga delikado yung pananalita, na it could lead to online harassment furthermore and possibly physical violence. Anong gusto nyo? Ipagkipit balikat natin, ganun, for the sake of absolute free speech. Gago ka naman nun. Pasalamat, siguro, pwede naman yun, pero it will vary to the attitude of the person. Kasi hindi naman lahat matino mag-isip. Pag talagang nabaliw yung tao on advocating for their freedom to say every shit that they want, lalo na pag hindi naman government yung tinutukoy, pag specific tao yung halimbawa ini-slander or ina-ad hominem, tapos nagli-lead yan to physical violence. So kung ganun lang pala, sana pala matikman nyo din yung physical violence na dadating sa inyo kasi gusto. So ayun lang, parang ang gulo at nakakapikon din talaga kasi mga ganung tao na makapag-promote ng absolute freedom of speech, tapos
Okay. Pero, okay. Thanks. Yun nga, medyo ano yung ganyan eh. Pero mabalik tayo sa topic, no? Yung mga Vatniks sa Pilipinas. Ito pag-usapan natin yung kasi interesting din kasi yung case na to eh. Bakit nangyari to eh. And it's Jeric Raval, yung sinabi ko na has-been na action star. Di ba nakita mo, dami niyang mga Z t-shirts, di ba? Yep. Dami niyang Z na express. And I think the reason why this happened in the first place is because, remember, Putin has a strong man image. He has a macho image, right? Macho image. Tapos, may veneer ng anti-Americanism siya. Kaya di ba? Ang daming mga tankies na sinusuporta si Putin because of that veneer of anti-Americanism. Right? And yun nga, pag kinumbine mo yung dalawang yon, meron ka makakita ng mga taong tulad ni Jeric Naval, right? Na overly masculine bro ang iisip. Kaya yun, meron mga ganyan na may mga naging Vatniks sa because of Putin's macho image. Not all of them, not all Filipino Vatniks are like that, of course. Right? Especially on the right side of things.
Yep. I agree na po. Anyway, may nahanap akong isang Twitter, Reddit comment. Sabi dito ni Git Gudum 9-1 is combo meal ang mga hinayupak na yan. DDS, Uniteam supporter, Trump supporter, Chinese apologies, pero nare-red tag Putin apologies, fake news believer, it's spreader.
Sa Art Philippines yan, no?
Kasi was our insane Pinoy Facebook.
Insane Pinoy Facebook. Kala ko Art Philippines eh.
Kasi may nag-post may nag-comment sa isang Reddit page na wish ko maging failed state ang Pinas and mag-import ng Afghan refugees, more EDCA pays, Chinese settlements. Give Mindanao Island sa Malaysia daw. Go, sige.
Gago. Ano yan? Parang jerk post yan ah. That doesn't, parang jerk na post eh.
The CIA, MI5 are operating this war kasi Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, kumikita dyan. Yung mga armored vehicles and ammunitions ma-outdated at noon pa pinadala sa Ukraine at kailangan ng Amerika gumawa ulit ng bagong armas. Mas brain dead naman si President Putin being surrounded by yes men. That's why Wagner almost won the coup. If Russia did not invade, tingin mo yung mga minention mong arms company ay kikita sa at kakagawa ng bagong armas. I'm humoring your conspiracy shits.
Mga ano yan? Yun yung comment or yun yung nasa yung screenshot na post?
Reply din. Yung na in-screenshot.
Reply din yan?
Wait, ito.
Ay, wait. Yun yung post sa Insane Pinoy Facebook. Okay.
Pinost din yung reply comment. Ito, wait lang. Malabo kasi yung second screenshot eh. So, ayun. Ito yan. Ayan. Ibalik natin dito.
So, ayan. Gaya mo na pala mag-screenshot eh. Ayun nga. Saan to? Our Philippines? Saan kaya original yan? Our Philippines? Hindi yung kung saan nanggaling yung kung saan nanggaling yung comment, not the post na sasabi.
Hindi ko alam.
Parang Our Philippines galing
medyo
yun.
Medyo malabo lang, pasensya na. Baka nga.
Yan. Okay. Ay, nako. Wala eh. Hindi kasi dahil sa pandemya kay Duterte naging Facebook 2.0 ng our Philippines eh. Dumami yung user pero pumangit yung quality ng posts. Well, I've been there since 2016, so I know. Kaya alam ko.
Ay, nako, tatanga. Ang sarap ipalaglag.
Yeah, we know. Tatanga naman talaga yung mga yun. Ibalaglag saan?
Ay, wait lang, may mga hahanapin ko yung mga post ni Camille. Kailangan ko siyang ilog siya ng personal. Ano kasi yung mabuting kaibigan ko na far-right Muslima. Hindi kasi active eh. Mga nagsisipag
Di active sa Facebook.
mag-aral eh. Sige sir, go ahead po.
Yeah, I'll not open my camera, but hopefully you can hear me
Me
on
more.
what I'm going to say on the matter. So
Yes.
I'm not going to dab into the Vatniks and the Mao or the Chinese apologists, because I think that's really a normal thing, that they are mobilized so that there's a counterbalance to the current status of our foreign policy. Okay, because what we are experiencing now is a recalibration of foreign policy due to the ineffectiveness of placating with China. So that's the general geopolitical situation we are actually facing. All right, and it equates to what's happening in Ukraine. So I guess everyone did a brilliant job of explaining what is happening on the ground. Although, of course, the technicalities, I do beg to differ on certain things. No? But going back to the Philippine setting, our geopolitical situation is uh, recalibrated, namely because the placation happening during the last administration was not really effective, right? And you have a president who was saying, "Oh, it's just a piece of paper. Let's throw it in the trash." It's not really a good, it's not really a good statement to espouse, especially as a head of state. Remember, the ASEAN was actually waiting for our um, initial processing of this matter, because it's a monumental arbitral ruling case. All right. So uh, now, speaking of the people that were, let's say, apologetic or opinionated against the West, this is not really, um, this is not this is not an old thing. Okay, I can still see that the opposition towards the West, or anti-sentiments against the West today, are not as vivid as it once was. Namely, there are two factors that comes into that. Number one, we have already taken away our military bases. Historically speaking, that was in 1991. Remember that the Senate president before Jovito Salonga had to break a tie on whether or not we would retain the American bases due to the perceived abuses of American soldiers, right? That's the number one thing. There's no vivid, strong opposition, or the reasoning against American imperialism per se is not anymore as strong. Another thing would be the stability of the VFA. So it is false to say that the VFA is not working. More or less, the VFA has given, or has not given, the Philippines a fair bargain. So when we say that, it's due to the fact that we have more privileges being met with the Balikatan exercises being initiated every year compared to other American allies. Actually, the special relationship is actually um, uh, somewhat breaking the leverages of uh, American intervention. Okay, I'm gonna say the word intervention not to anger our ano no, not to anger the audience, but rather a technical term. Okay, kasi sasabihin na naman ng iba imperialista ako. So having said that, okay, When we say intervention in this sense, geopolitically speaking, it's the manifestation of collective security. Okay, so in Tagalog, yung ating relasyon sa Amerika na nagiging ano siya, too much of a leverage na to the point na hindi nakakapagbigay ng timon si Amerika sa other important subpowers in the Pacific Corridor, namely Korea, Japan, and even other rising Southeast Asian nations like Vietnam and Indonesia. Okay, to the point that it becomes an opening for China to also act on their counter leverages, geopolitically speaking, no? So uh yun yung point na sinasabi ko, no, na hindi na kasing tapang, hindi na kasing uh valid yung anti-Western sentiments today because of those two important milestones in Philippine foreign policy. Okay, regardless of where we are in the spectrum, that actually changed our dynamics in dealing with foreign affairs. Okay, now yung kasing pag-rise ng China, okay, the foreign policy people of our country wanted to also give China some economic weight, especially because it's easier for China to, or it's easier for the Philippines, I'm sorry, to maintain a closer economic bilateral partnership rather than the United States. Because the United States during the 2000s, since I lived through that time, was already they're already introducing what we call our business process outsourcing industry, no, which also boosted the economy in the new millennia. No, China, or the Philippines wanted more of a market with them due to the manufacturing and even the telecommunications industry. Okay, thus leading to scandals during that particular administration. No, in that 9 years, we had the NBNCTE deal, we had the fertilizer fund scam. So yun yung gustong i-process ng Pilipinas noon na okay, we're gonna let other rising powers do business with us, but we're gonna figure out ano yung mga advantages ng mga bansa na yan na pwedeng i-introduce nila dito, no? So I guess uh, yung nangyaring yan uh, was actually a two-edged sword when it comes to our territorial sovereignty, dahil nga sa nung panahon na ni President Aquino, nagkaroon na ng pagbabantay sa China actually shifted its uh, prospects to um, expanding their maritime strength, which of course uh, involves territorial claims and disputes against other countries, notably the Philippines. No, ang una lang talaga nag-react in terms of this encroachment is the Philippines. Although Vietnam has been doing a lot of monitoring before us, Malaysia also did that, and Indonesia also did that before us. The only difference is, since the Philippines is more of a major non-NATO ally of the America, or of the United States of America, there would be more chances that magkakaroon ng sensationalism on that end. Okay? So, yung mga mobilization na nangyayari na, of course, with regards to yung Ukraine, or those who are against the war in Ukraine, and also trying to water down what is happening in the West Philippine Sea, are only mobilized for political purposes. Okay, so whether or not should they be a concern is um, a triggering, or more or less more or less they're trying to really get the nerves of people who are into more serious conversation on foreign policy, because the more they try to do that and then you get mad about it, the more their side would look legitimate and valid. Okay, because that is how making this issue seem local, 'di ba? Since in this country, we live in this philosophy that all politics is local. So when we use social media and then we talk about these issues, okay, nagiging local yung dating niya, to the point na pagka nagalit tayo sa ating reaction na hindi tama yan kasi mga bobo sila, wala silang alam sa foreign policy, namimili sila ng kanilang ng kanilang mga pinagkukunan na sources. No, the more that their side would become intriguing and interesting for a person that has no um in more intrinsic knowledge on these matters. So katulad niyan, so let's talk about the people that we're talking about, like John Suing, like Waganto Sasot, Rigoberto Tiglao. They're all mobilized because that has been their role in this entire web of social media. They're trying to create a counter narrative, okay, to leverage on people's minds. Okay, they're trying to win over people that has no idea of what foreign policy is. Okay, I mean, to the point that Tiglao is attacking a very short-lived administration for BSP Sierra Madre, that according to him, hindi pumayag daw ang dating Pangulong Estrada para uh, anuhin yung mga barko, bawiin, or hindi niya na papalagay doon para magsilbing ano natin, no, in international law, our proof of claim, no,
Yep.
with the with those islands, no, although that is more or less their role, no, to fool people on what really happened. Because technically, uh, for me, no, as a person who is dedicated on policy, it's not about the blaming part. It's about how do you move from there, right? Because when we try to uh, in Tagalog, na magtatagalog na ako, kung tayo ay maghahalongkat pa ng mga bagay-bagay tungkol sa nakaraan, it doesn't change what is moving, or what are the events looking or moving forward. It doesn't move mountains, no? Kunwari yan, nagsisisihan pa. Sino ba daw ang administrasyon na nagpabaya? Okay, because number one, kahit anong gawin ng mga past administrations, hindi naman nila maakalang magsasalita ang China ng ganon, because it's merely bluff, no? It's merely bluff, to say the least, dahil sa they're trying to make sure that division will happen amongst the policy formulators of this matter, notably the Defense Department, notably the Foreign Affairs Department, all of those departments that has a role on this matter. Okay, because in this case, no, kailangan side by side na meron kang pinapakitang prowess, while at the same time you're showing guts, no, on this issue, especially if we are avoiding war as far as we are concerned, no. So of course, yung kasing uh, nangyayari dyan, um, would need to have more intelligence briefings, no, to the point that the president himself must not say anything that would curtail, more or less harm, the situation of our people in that area. So, yun yung role talaga nila Tiglao, yun nila Sas. They're really there to disrupt everything because they know that whatever happens, it will be a policy or a foreign policy victory for the president, which they don't want to. Okay, I really feel that way because they don't want to, because they want those kinds of victories to come from their side of their spectrum. Okay, of course, we can consensually say that it is for selfish purposes, but that's how politics is played. No, they have clout in their community. Kumbaga para silang mga puon. Para na rin mga puon yan. Kulang na lang nga, lagyan mo ng sampagita ang mga taong yan at dasalan mo ng 5 beses sa isang araw. No, that is not
Personality politics in this country.
no. That's not more or less. I don't think that's personality politics. It's more or less para silang mga sensei, quote unquote, in international policy. But I don't want to go in debates, 'di ba? I don't want to, okay? Because it will only open a can of worms, and then it's either I will get destroyed or they will get destroyed, and then nothing will come about, no? Magiging personal ano siya, conflict. No, but yun nga yung turing sa kanila no side nila, 'di ba? They have shows like in their rabbit holes, in their safe spaces like SMNI and stuff like that. Kasi nga they have that clout, no? But again, regardless, no? Uh, those things that they're saying can easily be duplicated. Number one, not everyone in the defense industry likes what they're saying. Number two, they have no diplomatic experience. They are all stuck in the academe, which is not good when you are talking foreign affairs. You need to have interaction. You cannot just come up with the theoretical assessment on what is going on, and then you present it to the public, no, as if that it's actually true. We don't know what's gonna happen on the ground. It's para lang din kampanya yan, no? Na parang assume mo ganun ang survey, tapos wala kang gagawin, tapos iiyak-iyak ka kung talo ka. Hindi ganun po 'yun. Same goes with this case. No, you don't say an ideological perspective on foreign affairs because it's not applicable. Okay? You cannot be a realist 100% on the China issue, more or less in Ukraine. You cannot be a liberal on 100% on the issue because ginagago ka na nga, puro ka pa diplomasya para kang tanga, di ba? Hindi ka rin naman pwedeng warmonger kasi kagaguhan din yon. So you have to tread the needle carefully, which they are not doing. They're exacerbating public rhetoric no? So
Bina,
whether or
binasa,
not
binasa na ng Chinese Coast Guard. Wala, parang, wag nating anuhin kasi automatic naman, no, match tayo.
actually to be fair, yung ginawa ng Senate, okay na yun. I guess we have to commend the Senate for actually this administration, hindi na sila katulad nung nakaraan na natatakot sila sa kay tatay. Kaya hindi sila makagpalag sa salita. Kasi words in this case would mean a lot, right? To people, and it would mean a lot to our military who are defending us right now, right? So,
Yeah.
doon ay maganda na. Okay? Whether or not wala siyang walk, puro talk. But that's what we need to do. We have to play by our advantages, okay? And besides, collective alliances are gonna work on our favor, right? Like in ASEAN, no, the only based on what I have assessed, no, only 3 countries are really going to favor China in case a code of conduct will be initiated. Probably that would be Laos, that would be Cambodia, and Burma. No, surprisingly, Myanmar would side with China for I don't know what reason. But again, other countries that are more independent-minded, like Vietnam, Thailand, would probably side with us. Of course, when we talk about the stability of democracy in these areas, no, it's going to be a state by state approach. So we're not saying that all of these states that are against China are perfect, no? Kasi gagamitin na naman ng dahilan 'yan na mga binanggit natin. Sasabihin nila kakampi-kampi tayo sa Malaysia, meron din naman silang territorial dispute sa atin, 'di ba? Because they use the Sabah claim as a counter argument, no, na
Yep.
bakit hindi natin gawin sa Sabah yung ginagawa natin sa West Philippine Sea, even though collectively most Sabah residents would want to stay with Malaysia. Okay? And even Bangsamoro is not moving their prospects. They're not even touching that issue with a 10-foot pole because they know that it will always resolute to a plebiscite na doon lalabas na baka magbayaran na naman under the table, masira ang Bangsamoro. Na ayaw natin mangyari because they want kumbaga magiging test talaga, talaga yan. Magiging test of our democratic reforms ang Bangsamoro, no? Let's not laugh on that matter. Kaya kung binanggit 'yun kasi 'yun yung nagiging counter result ng mga ganyan-ganyan na claims, no? So, having said that, no, yun yung entirety of the issue, no, na they're used na collectively, no, because of a common bond when it comes to territorial integrity, mas marami kakampi yung Pilipinas kesa sa China. Okay, the only thing that they're going for, of course, is their military strength,
Militarily and
do,
politically speaking.
which is true, by the way. If we go one-on-one against them, we would lose, no? And I'm not being I'm not being a pro-Chinese apologist when saying that. I'm just saying
Yep.
that when we go one-on-one, it's really going to be a disadvantage. Kaya nga po tayo nag-aalyansa. Yun po ang importansya niyan kasi pare-parehas na ng commonality ng ng interest po, no? So hindi na po kasi yan imperialismo. Kasi imperialismo, you invade a state with no initial reasoning why. 'Di ba? So their reasoning is only legitimate on their end. It's not hindi nila hindi nila yan na pinapaliwanag sa Security Council, more or less hindi nila yan pinaliliwanag sa kanilang mga kaalyadong bansa. Like for example, yung sa Ukraine and yun nga sa China. They're not gonna convince India, ito ang dahilan bakit gusto namin gawin yan. No? They're not gonna say that. Russia's not gonna say to Belarus, ito kasi ang mga dahilan namin bakit namin i-invade si Ukraine. They're not gonna do that. Okay? That's not part of that's not the paper they have signed on, to be quite honest with you. So, yun na yun yung importansya ng alliances, no? Which of course is not limited to one school of thought in international relations. Kasi yun yung gusto kong i-emphasize, given that I have taken those courses not only in my bachelor's degree but in my master's degree as well. Okay? It's not kasi ang mali sa mga Pilipino, they often predispose themselves with one school of thought in international relations, which is dangerous because the world is very complex. So, nasabi na nga ni Aaron na they're trying to make sure that it becomes a simple dichotomy, a black and white on what is going on. So ano na ang gagawin natin, 'di ba? Things are not as easy as it sounds, no? 'Di ba? More or less katulad ng boycotting China, for example. It's not hindi tayo pwede mag zero sum game, namely because we are undergoing an inflation and our economy has stumbled. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19. So, to boycott products from China will only be short-term in positivity. It's not going to be a long-term success. So kung maaalala nyo sa inyong kasaysayan, no, dun sa yung mga nanonood dito na talagang hindi naniniwalang history is chismis, no? Napoleon created a blockade, no, against the United Kingdom, no? Back when they were the two most powerful hegemons during the Napoleonic Wars. And it backfired because England had a lot of colonies outside Europe and they traded with them, no? They even traded with the French colonies. Ganun po katanga yung ganong strategy. So ganun din dapat ang ating titignan. But that doesn't mean na hindi na tayo lalaban or hindi na tayo stand up against what is being done to us, no? There are other approaches to this matter, and we cannot really detail that in full step by step because it's not a step by step hindi mo siya napaplano. Okay? Heuristically speaking, you will only be able to come up with a comprehensive strategy once you're there, no? Yun yung hindi alam ng mga tao. Kasi akala nila pag nag-strategize ka, no, may 1 to 10 ka na sinusulat. Hindi po ganun kasi pag diplomacy ang usapan. More or less in war. You're not going to give everything away because your enemies will be there putting spies listening to what you're saying. So I'm just telling it like it is. Dahil nga, no, mahirap yung nag-a-assume tayo ng what they're gonna do, no? Because it's either going to lead to dalawang concepts. It's either they're just scaring us orally or they are preparing to mount up internal discontent, no, in this country so that they can pursue intervention. Okay? At yun nga lalabas yung mga binanggit natin kanina because social media is a very potent platform to engage people in believing in lies, no, misinformation, you name it, right? So I am used to these people saying that because I read them every day. No, I read them in the papers. I watch them on television. They even invited one guy, inaway pa nga niya si Xiao Chua noon, hindi siya totoong Laurel, no? Actually, I doubt that he is a family member of the Laurels, no? So in-invite siya and he's spouting counter arguments over what happened and what transpired, no? So because that's all part of the plan, no? They're planting people there so that there would be internal displeasures coming from the people, no? Instead na magkaroon ng united front, magkakaroon ng ng pagkawatak-watak in Tagalog. So, yun yung dapat nating iwasan at dapat nating palagan, no? Although many people don't like the arguments, thank goodness, so far so good. At saka mga fringe people from the left and right lang yung nakikinig diyan, no? Kasi yun naman ang kahit naman sa United States ginagawa nila yan, no? They're using the far left and far right elements to actually make people discontent over what's going on, no? So yun yung nangyayari. And how do we combat that? Actually, by doing comments or reaction videos like this is actually important, ano? So hindi ko na masyado diniscuss yung Russia because I think Aaron already did enough of that, no? Although yun nga, yung technical differences ko dyan is that having said what I've said, na yung heuristic wise, hindi mo mapaplano ang geopolitical plan mo by listing it on a piece of paper. You just plan it when it's there. So hindi naman talaga masusukat ng Amerika na ganun pala yung hindi pala mag-work out ang democratic system sa Russia. They never really did. I mean, Madeleine Albright, the second Secretary of State of Bill Clinton in his term, said
The first
that during
woman.
that, and pang ilan na siya? Third na, no? Tatlo na ang women Secretary of State. So, siya yung nauna. So, sabi niya, Albright stated that one is only fooling himself, herself, okay, kung sasabihin natin we can predict that Russia would go rogue and actually uh, approve of the authoritarian appeal of Putin. Okay, we would have not predicted that. No one would have predicted that, namely because the Russians will project when bilateral talks are being engaged, Russia will pretend that they are okay in line with the democratic ideals of the West, given that their situation is not as um, uh, strong as when they were still the USSR. Diba? So they're playing their cards right, sabi niya ganon. And we were playing our cards right because given that Pax Americana started in the 1990s, it would be a dumb decision for any country to actually counterbalance the United States at that time. Okay? So siguro, one could say na turning point niyan is yung war on terror because even Western allies of the United States backed out from the Grand Coalition of Invasion of Iraq. So namely that was France and Germany. Okay? Only
Natira
the
lang yung
United
UK.
Kingdom, only the UK as a great power sided with the Bush administration in invading Iraq at the time, no? So doon nagkaroon ng leverage na tinatawag. Although heuristic wise, hindi mo pa rin mapre-predict na i-invade si Putin sa Georgia noong 2008 because babalikan natin yung sinasabi ni Albright, it was still Pax Americana. No one will expect na merong magcha-challenge or somebody will actually initiate belligerent movements in those unstable areas. Okay, if we're going to, I mean, even in the Obama administration, no, ang dami ng marami nang inimpose na sanctions as early as 2011 to the point that Medvedev was initiating peace partnership talks with the United States. He even went to a McDonald's with Barack Obama, no? Dahil nga ang dami na sanctions eh. Kasi nasasakal na sila. Yet, they still invaded. Nobody would expect that. So, ang galaw na nangyayari talaga foreign policy wise is on the ground. Okay? You cannot tell what will happen in the next few days. 'Di ba? We cannot tell that the Ukraine crisis would suddenly end, right? Because baka kasi lingid sa kaalaman nila, syempre, NATO membership is not enough or even European Union membership is not enough for progress. No, akala kasi siguro ng ibang Eastern Bloc states ganun yung sistema even though karamihan ng EU states, 'di ba, faltered in the mid 2010s and big European members or EU members had to bail them out, no? So hindi nila baka kasi magkaroon ng ganung expectation tapos maging pangit ang kalalabasan, they might revert back to their more populist ways. Mag-gravitate na naman ng tao towards a strong man, no? So, yun yung dapat na iniisip ng mga foreign policy think tanks. Kasi that would happen, no? That would easily happen, no? Iba kasi yung ano nila, yung kanilang perspective towards democratic rule, no? So, like in China, they think that democracy only happens economically, right? To the point that China is now a very liberalized economy that if Mao Zedong actually is alive, if ever he was alive today, baka siya ay mabigla sa kung gaano na ka-liberal ang ekonomiya ng China. Totoo po yan, no? Kaya natin binabanggit yan kasi talaga napaka-liberal na economy nila. Much more than a traditional Western influence democracy like the Philippines. But that's an issue for another day because that's going to attack another enemy of ours. So, nabanggit ko lang, no? So, yun. So, I guess I've said a lot on this matter dahil nga sa uh, it's a very interesting topic to chide on dahil nga sa it's still ongoing. And another thing is people who tend to know a little on this matter will be the one that is more talkative on social media. So, uh, so yun yung nakakatakot talaga sa wala talagang certain curtailment of free speech, no? And sinasabi ko to dahil hindi po ako galit doon. Ang sinasabi lang po natin is we have to be careful on what we say because it's purely ideological. It doesn't happen in the real world. It's like believing in magic, no? It's like believing in fairy tales, no? I'm afraid to say that, but I am pressed gang to say it, especially when the comments does not stop, no? And yun nga. So I understand the anger of people like us. No? Nakakainis talaga yun pag lagi mo nakikita eh. Pero maglaro na lang kayo ng fantasy basketball katulad ko. So nananalo na po ako ngayon, no? I'm playing the Sacramento Kings. Inat ko lang. Kasi nakakainis talaga yung mga ganyan
Oo.
tao. Pero nga, sabi ko nga, wala na tayong magagawa eh. Tulad nga na sinabi nila, opinion nila mattering. Their opinion matters a lot to themselves. So, the 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 hope for a very civil conversation will not work, no? May magko-comment na naman diyan. Alrighty then, no?
Mag-echo chamber na lang tayo. Yun naman lang talaga yung gusto
Oo.
nyo.
Oo, yun nga yung yun nga yung ating yun nga yung kinakatakot natin eh. Pero yun nga, meron naman nanonood dito na hindi echo chamber. Kaya lang siguro tinignan nung alrighty din yun dahil sa nakikita nila yung mga gwapo nilang muka, no? Yung mga artistahin nilang muka. Pwede na sa Seco Films yun. Oo, pwede na talaga sa Seco Films yun. Ipapartner ko sila kay Rita Avila. Oo. Totoo. Tapos lalabas sila sa IBC 13 kung saan wala nang kakwenta-kwenta ngayon. Ang pinalalabas na lang yata Lotto. Oo. No?
Ano natin sila like, about them, there would be another day to jab. Give a jab
Yeah.
on them. I just
Yeah.
give one kanina nung solo ep ko, but mo na yun. Naboboard na din akong ano yun sila eh. Wala ka naman akong mapapala dun eh.
Naka-live ka ba sa
Kasi,
YouTube?
no, hindi pa. Not. No, not.
Akala ko naka-live stream.
Hindi, the lives are gonna be for yung 2024 election, but that would be matagal pa.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm hoping for a kind of a strong rain. Para walang pasok lahat.
Kahit naman actually, pagka sa mga institutions like us, may pasok ang teacher kahit na walang
Ayun lang
pasok
nga.
ang student.
Oo
So,
nga eh.
paper works. So, I'm
Sayang.
afraid I may not be able to join you next year, but let's see. No, I'm not actually closing my channels yet. No, actually, Arman and I tried to do it almost 4 years ago, noong 2020, but again, meron akong nun, online class.
Oo.
So, yun nga lang, meron akong para lang maiba yung topic. Let's veer away a little from the topic. Meron akong estudyante, nakita yung share screen ko noon, nung New York Times na 2020 election. So, na-curious siya, sino daw yung nananalo. Ako kasi kabado noon. Kasi baka ma-maintain yung lead. Yung pala, pagkakita ko sa tab, nananalo na si Neil Biden. So, sabi ko, okay, that's great. Kasi nga nanalo na siya sa Wisconsin. Nagtataka nga ako, noon time na yun, bakit inuna yung Wisconsin kahit na mas lamang na si Biden sa Michigan. So, lalo lang ako nang hinayang nung na-bring up namin sa klase yun kasi hindi ko siya na-track live. All because I had to, teach.
Yeah.
Readings in Philippine history, if you know that subject. That was the subject. No? Which, of course, na sinasabi doon na may mga proper ways of assessing an event. Yan. Hindi yung nanonood na kayo ng pelikula kung sa papakita nila, bida sila. No? Kalokohan. Anyway, so,
Well, about naman dun sa 2020, like I told to myself na, well, it's President Trump versus former VP Biden. Like, I don't really care as long as the Democrats won the Senate. Because, like I said, like, who cares who wins the White House? If you don't win the House or Senate, then your partisan or bipartisan legislative agenda is dead.
no, yun nga. So,
I was really sad.
Yeah. So, kaya nga nung yung nilaro ko kanina, yung Team Ryan, actually, pinagana ko talaga yung how would this person strategically win given that the state has moved so much to the right. Inisip ko, okay, let's use the populist rhetoric na jobs are being shipped to China and people will love that. And I actually double down on it. Like I often attack. Doon sa laro, yung ina-atake ko si JB Vance ng ganon. So, and strategically speaking, you have to win the suburbs of Columbus and Cincinnati and then try to cut votes in Northern Ohio. So, kaya ako nanalo. Although, of course, hindi ko na dinirim na malayo yun lamang kasi ang imposible naman kasi nun. So, tulad nga na sinabi ko, hindi ako panderer, no? Na mag-i-expect ako ng 10-point lead sa Ohio. Baka naman akong gago nun. Alam naman natin hindi na mangyayari yun, di ba? So, I don't want to pander myself. Okay, let's babaan natin yung level. Wag natin gawing normal, gawin nating easy para lahat ng traditional democratic counties mag-blue talaga. So, yun. So,
well,
palubag loob lang yun.
I did try to play it kanina, but it
you
backfired.
Yeah, because
Nag-backfire sa akin na malala. I was really focused on Delaware County and the Mahoning County kanina when I was playing.
Yeah. But it doesn't move kasi votes eh. I actually won Mahoning in my victory. Although I was parang nag-spread ako ng cut votes. So what I mean is yung mga contentious counties pinuntahan ko lahat tapos napaliit ko yung lamang ni Vance kasi that's the way I think Tim Ryan would have won that, no? Kasi nag-rely siya masyado sa pera coming from the DNC and hindi na siya nag-alo sa grassroots niya. Eh ano ba alam ng mga DNC representative sa Ohio? Siguro yung mga taga-Ohio lang. Diba? Pero hindi naman yun yung I guess one of the
he was
wrong
trying to
strategies
prove
used.
kasi na he has the roots.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but I actually love.
So yun yung masasabi ko doon na he tried to have the campaign na parang, oh, I'm more Ohioan than him because even though we're both born and raised in Ohio.
Yeah. I think I understand your point. No, so I actually love the game. I would
but of course,
ano gagawin natin? Ano yun? I would plug in the game.
Oh yeah.
New campaign trail. So, pwede nyo po laruin yun. Actually, nag-iintay nga ako na mayroong Filipino na version. Para I can run I can run as
Pero,
2004
pero hindi mo lang inano
Raptor.
yung sa Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Yung kay Barnes? Tama ba?
Well, walang, yeah, or walang version
Kasi
ng
ang hirap
2022
gumawa ng
Senate.
ang hirap gumawa ng ganong beta kasi ang original na laro niya, nalaro ko pa nung ina-unlock pa. Parang may levels yun eh. 5 election yung kailangan mo laro. 1868, ay di. Ano muna, James Polk, 1844, tapos Abraham Lincoln, 1860, tapos non William McKinley, 1896, Woodrow Wilson, 1916, Harry Truman, 1948, Kennedy, 1960, yung kamag-anak ng idol natin na anti-vaxxer, 1968, Richard Nixon, 1976, Carter, tsaka 1988, Bush, no? Although may mga special siya na feature na presenting Dabia 2000 kasi yun yung pinaka-contentious election. So, yun yung original na site. Tapos dinagdagan lang nila ng mga other scenarios kasi nga nagre-request yung mga naglalaro nun. So, hopefully we can see a Philippine version kasi parang mas mapuprove ko yung skills ko doon. Kasi sa American campaign, pagka nabasa mo na yung background ng isang election, you will get it right. So, ayun. Ano to?
Wala na, alam mo na.
Yung mapa. Sinong paglalabanin natin? I mean, who would that be? Who would those be?
Nag-iisip ako. Let's go for this crazy versus this crazy. Anyway, wala na si Theo. Nawala na dun siya ng sinasabi. Which is, okay lang. Just
Sino to? Sino isang crazy?
if these people really want to si Pekpek.
Yung idol ko. Oo. Yung, I am not bought and paid for.
Nakakatakot ang laban to.
Actually, sabi nga nung isang
Nakakatakot na laban
Fox
to.
News.
Black.
Sabi nung Fox News analyst, pwede daw mag-alyansa si Ramaswamy tsaka si RFK Jr. as the anti-establishment candidate.
He did admit that.
Okay.
Si Ramaswamy Kennedy, he did admit that na he was willing. Wait, ano po yung sasabihin niya?
Hindi, yun nga, na sinecheck ko kung malaman mo yun. Nagdalag ako. Hello? Hello?
Ayan, okay naman po. Okay.
I was checking if you was able to get that sa news. Hello?
Yung kay Ramaswamy at Kennedy.
Oo.
Kung pwedeng mag-team up daw, Nakita ko na rin yun sa may nag-screenshot, natatawa nga ako eh. Sabi nga niya, he was open to adopt RFK Jr. Oh my God. Yan ang no label.
Oo nga eh. No label ba yan?
Well, luckily they're not gonna win the primaries. They'll only get a certain delegate vote, but they're not gonna win the primaries.
Yeah, let's start the whole shithole together. So, Indiana would go to my idol. I'm not bought and paid for.
So,
Indiana.
Yeah.
That will go in that. I'm not bought and paid for. So I can say this. Climate change is a hoax.
Yeah. It's gonna be safe for him sa Indiana, actually.
Yeah. Vermont would go to...
And of course, Vermont, no choice sila.
Kay Boy Paos. So, South Carolina would easily go to Ramaswamy. They'd love that kind of shithole.
Yeah, in
And
South Carolina
Kentucky,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah. Virginia would easily go to RFK because of. No, no, no. Wait, let's leave Virginia for a while. Ano pa ba mga state? Hindi, wag muna. Wala pa yan. Parang anti-establishment kasi si RFK. Kaya baka mahirapan. Hindi magte-turn out yung Nova sa kanya. Sige, West Virginia, alam mo, parang I would say this and you would shock. You
Glenn
would be
Youngkin
shocked.
might not turn out.
Ramaswamy's too pro-capitalist. So, baka maging competitive yan. Hindi, totoo. In this scenario
Yeah,
lang, I'm not saying that in general. So, let's
yeah,
leave West
I agree.
Virginia. Let's leave North Carolina
Yeah, I
due
would
to the
agree.
fact that Ohio would also be in contention kasi nga may pagka-pro-union si RFK Jr. due to his family. So, let's leave all three states
Saka how
there.
much
But,
pro-union would he be?
yeah, he would rally it up. Siguro kung sila yung maglaban, kunwari lang ano lang naman to yung ginagawa natin, hypothetical.
Yeah,
Gagamitin niya
yep.
against Ramaswamy yung mga ganon. Totoo yan. Kung maglalaban sila sa senaryo na to. Ang gagamitin ni Ramaswamy against RFK Jr. is that elitist siya, snob siya, gano'n. 'Di ba? Although they might agree on the corporate ano ba 'yon? Corrupt merger of corporate and state power. So, let's proceed. Illinois would go to RFK Jr. because Chicago, uh, pero siguro Ramaswamy would get 43% or 44% there. Massachusetts, syempre, home state, walang choice. RFK.
Yep.
Connecticut, no choice din yan. RFK
Remembered what
din
we
yan.
did about RFK and Trump?
Yeah. Rhode Island, RFK Jr. Dahil New Englander daw siya. New Jersey, uh, blue. Delaware blue, Maryland blue, DC blue. Georgia, wala pa, hindi ko pa sure. Tennessee, Ramaswamy yan. Alabama, Mississippi, Missouri, and Oklahoma. So, yun yung mga poll closings eh. So, kaya para, ano na yan. Hindi, wala muna. Huwag mo munang i-ano yung Arkansas. Wala pa. Wala pa. Binibilisan mo. Nebraska, I think, would go all in for... Hindi, sige, ano mo na. Color it in mo na. Ganon din naman yan. Alam naman nating Ramaswamy. Florida, ewan ko, tingin mo, sino susuportahan ni ano dyan? Ni Wanda. Wanda.
Mas anti-vaxxer si RFK.
Ano na lang?
Doon na binase.
Di mo binase? I mean, no.
Anti-vaxxer.
De, i-color in mo na yung Arkansas, ganun naman talaga yan. Wala na tayong magagawa dyan. Unless patakbuhin mo si Hillary ulit, yun, baka may chance na. But that's not gonna happen. Florida, yeah, let's leave it behind. Mga Great Plains, lahat yan red. Wala naman na tayong magagawa dyan.
Yeah,
Wyoming, syempre red.
parang
Yan, Wyoming, syempre.
sayang mahina net ni Edric.
South Dakota, North Dakota, Nebraska. I think all of Nebraska would go Ramaswamy. Unfortunately, since I don't have an idea if Kennedy
I don't-
Jr. has has an elaborate policy on agriculture or whatsoever. So, Idaho, syempre. New Mexico would go to Kennedy Jr.
Oh, I think he would. It might be lean.
Yeah, Colorado is likely.
Senator Heinrich would well, Senator Heinrich would do better than him.
Hmm. Yeah, that often happens. New York would go to RFK Jr., of course. Wala na magagawa yung mga New York
Oo naman,
elites
of
there.
course.
They would rather have him than Ramaswamy.
His father was a damn senator there.
Ah, yeah, he did. He was, yeah, I forgot. New Hampshire, let's leave it at that. May,
I kind of wish that he
may
never mind.
laban kasi si Ramaswamy sa New Hampshire. Michigan, tingin ko, ano na yan?
Lol.
I, I, I would easily go to, Michigan would go to Kennedy Jr. because of the unions and the African Americans. Diba? Hindi naman si Trump ang kalaban, so technically, he'll win that one. Minnesota would also go to RFK Jr. So, wala na tayong magagawa. No? Yeah, yung West Coast, sa kanya na yan. Yung Hawaii,
Yeah, I
susuportahan
think
siya ni Tulisan dyan. Oo. Pennsylvania, parang hindi ko mabibigay ka Ramaswamy, Pennsylvania.
ay nako.
Napaka-kapitalista eh. So, super duper eh. So, yeah, give it to Kennedy.
Ito na yung gipitan talaga.
Oo. I guess so.
No, except
Yun yung pinag-partneran mo eh. Yan kasi yung yung pinaglaban mo, ang pangit.
ito na yung mga gipitang states.
Ayan na. Iowa, medyo may laban na si Kennedy dyan. Tsaka sa Ohio, tsaka sa Wisconsin. This is gonna, I would give Arizona to Ramaswamy.
I think it's gonna be lean. I think it's in lean R.
Huh? No. I don't think Ramaswamy would win Iowa. In this scenario, no.
Why?
Because RFK Jr. has and parang wag muna. Mamaya natin pagdesisyonan. Arizona would go Ramaswamy. Arizona and Texas would go
Hypothetically.
Ramaswamy.
Ano yun?
Oo. Tanggalin mo muna yung Iowa. Wala yan.
Arizona and okay.
Yan. So, Arizona would go to Ramaswamy. Texas would go to Ramaswamy. I'll bet my bottom ass they're gonna win that. Yan. Okay. Alaska would go to... Gusto mo pa bigay ko yung dream mo? Para may chance eh. Kasi climate change is a hoax daw, sabi nung kabila eh. So,
Well, he's an environment lawyer, so
bigay natin. Ay,
ayun nga
salamat!
eh.
They finally were blue. Kasi hindi ko rin maano si Ramaswamy manalo sa Alaska dahil yung sasabihin mo. Ang dami na natutunaw na ice dyan. Anyway, Maine would go to Kennedy Jr. Lahat. Wala kahit second district.
Malapit.
Lahat ng Maine. Kahit second district pa siya. Hindi naman working class ang appeal ni Ramaswamy. Mga libert lang. Libert. Diba? Ayan. Lahat yan. Wala na. Okay. Ang dami pang hindi na fill up.
So
Yan.
kay Kennedy.
I would say, okay, I'll agree with you that maglilin red si Iowa. Maglilin red si Iowa. And Nevada in this scenario. I don't think Kennedy has an appeal in Nevada anymore. Based
Really,
on
Ay.
ayan, yan.
Next
Okay.
is
West
ito na
Virginia,
yung battleground natin.
Georgia. Ikaw, sa tingin mo, sino mananalo sa Georgia? Kasi ang hirap mag-isip. Parang
I think mapipilitan yung Georgia suburbs to go to Kennedy.
mapipilitan. Kasi I think Ramaswamy
Yeah,
can
I
win.
think so.
There.
I think they'll give him. Yeah, I think. Well, he has an appeal in all rural Georgia, probably.
Oo, ganun na nga.
Yeah, I think we can make it tilt red. I think.
Yeah, tilt red. West Virginia.
Yeah.
Kasi ako, I think, I don't know, it seems weird that we're realigning certain states, but yeah, I think,
Ayan naman.
I think, ayoko maging idealistic. Sige, bigay mo na kay Ramaswamy. Siguro mga 7 to 8%. Or 5% kung talagang malakas si RFK Jr. dyan. Kasi yun yung mangyayari dyan eh. Ano yan eh. Maka-rile up yung mga unions. Sinasabi ni Ramaswamy. Although
Kaso
socially,
environmental din ng West Virginia.
no, yun nga.
Yeah,
Kaya nga,
socially
yun nga.
conservative but environmentally preservatives ang preserve yun nga, basta pro preserving of the environment of West Virginia. He'll
Okay.
run on his court case record of defending the environment.
Yun nga yung laban niya. Tapos si Ramaswamy yung
put it
climate
from
change is a hoax. Ayun. So, pero Wisconsin, Kennedy yan. No
The
doubt.
climate change is a state agenda.
Oo.
Oh yeah.
Hindi, I mean, Wisconsin
not
would
that
go blue.
much.
Yeah. Not that much, yeah. But it's still gonna go blue. Yan. Okay. Bigay mo na kay Ramaswamy yung NC. I think walang laban si Kennedy dyan kasi gerrymandered yung lugar na yan. Tsaka di siya tutulungan ni Roy Cooper dyan. I just believe that. Although, baka hindi na rin governor si Roy Cooper nung time na yan. Tama ba?
I think he can handle himself. Well, hindi naman na talaga.
Oh, yun.
No,
Okay.
he will still be.
Yan. Na-fill upan mo na yung New Hampshire? Oo, na-fill upan mo na. Kay Kennedy?
Still.
Okay.
Kasi
ilang states?
Anti-abortion yan eh. Si Ramaswamy eh.
Oo, yeah. Yeah. Tama. Oo. So, Kennedy's the first Democrat to flip Alaska for a long time. Sad. Anyway, Virginia, tingin mo, sino mananalo sa Virginia in your honest assessment? Ang hirap eh, pares anti-establishment eh.
I think Governor Youngkin would tread lightly and he might ignore Ramaswamy.
Alin? Ramaswamy.
He might ignore, yeah, he might ignore him. Even though parehas silang businessman, I don't think he's gonna give a shit about him. I think Kennedy would win it in the tip.
Ayun, so 230 Ohio,
Ano na lang,
Florida, and Pennsylvania. So tingnan mo nga sa baba yung mga must-win nilang dalawa. Kasi kakamihan na ng state na fill up na natin. So, meron yan may guide yan
but may show third putang. Show third party pa. Reset. Wait lang. Would he win? I think RK Jr. might win Pennsylvania.
So, panalo na siya.
Alright, that's it.
Oh, God. Parang ano lang blue wall
Yeah.
lang yung panalo. Ohio. Di naman dyan.
I'll
Ayun,
give
tama.
him Ohio and then I might.
Florida, yan.
Well, I gave him Ohio and I gave him Florida. It's a squeaker. God. So, ang ending. Well, hindi naman talaga ito mangyayari, pero
Malapit, oh. Ang pangit.
who's to say na hindi ito mangyayari next year?
Who's to
Ayun
say
nga.
it's not gonna happen? Oh, God. Ang layo-layo na nga habulin yung dalawang hayop na yan. Anyway, sinasabi ko lang ang totoo. Kasi kung meron man, sana sinabi ko.
Ano mas nakakatakot?
Ha?
Ano mas nakakatakot? Ramaswamy Kennedy Jr. or Ramaswamy Trump matchup? God damn.
I don't know. People like them. Actually, a lot of African Americans,
I
when
was
they saw the
asking
picture of
for
Trump,
hypothetically kung
palagay ko yung Ramaswamy, para sa akin lang. Kasi, there would be a strong difference between Kennedy Jr. and Trump. Kasi sinabi naman niya, marami siyang disagreements with Trump. Pero, mas malala yan kung mismong si Kennedy na nagsasabi na na gusto niya makipag-alyansa kay Ramaswamy.
well, hindi naman niya gusto talaga actually. I mean, good na hindi, pero delikado pa din siya as a Democrat eh. He tarnishes his Democratic credentials. Or
Yep.
parang he thinks that he's still living in the 60s.
Yep. And that's bad.
Ito namang isang tangang to.
Cruz of Texas was on Newsmax this week, expressing his genuine and sincere interest in the United States. Last week, the director of the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism suggested U.S. recommendations could change to just 2 beers a week. That is the recommendation in Canada, was suggesting maybe that would be a good idea for the United States as well. Well, here's what Senator Cruz had to say about that.
What is it with liberals that want to control every damn aspect of your life? Biden came in, wanted to do was ban gas stoves. New York State has now done that for new construction. They're trying to go after and regulate ceiling fans. I got I tell you, it's hot in Texas. We don't want to get rid of our ceiling fans. And now these idiots have come out and said, drink 2 beers a week. That's their guideline. Well, I got to tell you, if they want us to drink 2 beers a week, frankly, they can kiss my ass.
Goddamn Republican hypocrisy on, what do you call that? Gatekeeping freedoms. As
Ayun nga
usual.
eh. Tsaka wala naman yata talagang ganong sinabi.
That was the part.
Ano lang nila yun, delusiones lang na naman nila yan. Alam ko na
Ayan.
eh.
Tayo jump the gun
Yan, Ted Cruz, matalo ka na sana. That human blobfish. Anyway, wala tayong magagawa. Yun eh. Kasi nanalo pa yan.
Yeah, if he wins, I would definitely be sad. Kasalanan to ni no, joke lang. No, I don't blame him fully, okay? That campaign was
Si Beta.
ano ba yan, sir? No, hindi naman niya talaga kasalanan yan. I was just joking, okay? Hindi niya kasalanan yan.
Wala
That
ako
campaign is
sinasabi.
almost perfect.
Wala
Sadyang-
kasalanan. Yeah. Wala na lang tayong magagawa. Ganun talaga. We have to stick by
Well, wait nga lang yan. So yeah, yun, nakakalungkot. But, yeah, I hope Colin already pulls it off. Like, 2 points na lang yun, no? Diba, like, oh, come on, it's a 2-point win. Ano to? Hungarian PM stands with Ukraine truth in Tucker in Doon naman si Senator McConnell, of course, brain freeze.
Ano kayo ang nanonood ng Breaking Points?
Kasi
Tama na.
hindi pa kasi tinalo hindi natalo ni ano to eh.
Nino?
Ha?
Ni McBrat. Oo.
40%.
McBrat. Oh God.
Eminem sends Vivek cease and desist. Ano?
Ayun nga yun,
Bakit
yung
daw?
binalita ko kanina. Kanina yun, no? O nung isang araw.
Matagal na po yun na ano eh. Neo condo na queen si Nikki Haley. Ay, nako, Crystal. Na hawak. Oh my God. Ayan. So, sobrang I mean, not really anti-war. Like we say, di ba? We're not really anti-war. We're not really pro-war. Wala yun na talaga yung tingin nila kay Haley eh. Ganun din naman yung tingin mo sa kanya. Actually, so.
Saan? Tingin mo kay Haley ay warmonger?
Yan, war freak din. Yeah, in a way.
Although, nagwo-work kasi yung rhetoric niya sa defense establishment dito. No? At saka wala akong I don't know.
Crystal, kanino ka nagsisim? Kay Senator Bernie? Hindi nga.
After last week's Republican.
Sige, ano po yung nag-work?
Hindi naman talaga nagwo-work sa defense establishment yung kay Nikki Haley. Diba? And I don't want to listen to left-wing media when it comes to these things because they're losing their argument. Ay, nako. Yung mga non-interventionist na yan. Pero pagdating sa negosyo, gustong-gusto nila, liberalize the economy. Diba? Open FDI. Putang ina nyo. Anyway, what does that make? Anong difference, no? Yun lang ang naiisip ko. Anong pinagkaiba nun? Assimilation din naman yun.
Less casualties.
Yeah. Further disparity.
Less military casualties.
GOP donor and media class have a new queen, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. The Washington Post conservative worker raved about Nikki's brains and experiencing, declaring, quote, hands down, Nikki Haley won the first GOP debate. New York Times' David Brooks cut to the chase, directly appealing to Nikki's likely constituency, writing, donors, this is the moment to give her a chance. Media mogul Rupert Murdoch made his new favorite clear through the Wall Street Journal editorial board, which fawned over Haley's, quote, debate truths, and through the mouthpieces on Fox and Friends, who unanimously declared Haley the debate's clear winner, in particular because they love her neocon foreign policy. Brian Kilmeade called her right in every sense word. He claimed his informal poll of fellow Fox talent and other assorted friends indicated Haley, quote, ran away with the show. Ainsley jumped in to take Haley's side, deeming Ramaswamy's response unimpressive and unsatisfactory in that foreign policy exchange. Ainsley was also particularly dismayed at his lack of support for unconditional aid to Israel. Now, it makes complete sense that Nikki Haley would receive a rapturous reception from legacy Republican elites. Her worldview is perfectly aligned with their interests. She is all in on forever proxy war in Ukraine. She will never even think of cutting back on our massive aid to Israel, no matter what atrocities our ethno-state allies inflict on Palestinians. And since she didn't have a chance to make it clear on the debate stage, she quit.
Well, anyway, about Israel, like I said, I don't like the Israeli government. I think they should be sanctioned. They should have been sanctioned before, in my view. But of course, that's not gonna happen. Not in our lifetime.
Quickly took to the cable news airwaves to proudly declare she would cut Social Security by lifting the retirement age. Take a listen.
Well, you know, you've got multiple candidates on that stage that said they wouldn't touch entitlements, including Trump. And any candidate that says they're not going to touch entitlements means that they're basically going to go into office and then leave America bankrupt. Social Security is going to go bankrupt in 10 years. Medicare is going to go bankrupt in 8. So the way we deal with it is we don't touch anyone's retirement or anyone who's been promised in, but we go to people like my kids in their 20s when they're coming into the system and we say the rules have changed. We living increases, we do it based on inflation. We limit the benefits on the wealthy and we expand Medicare Advantage plans.
What's the right age there then, Ambassador?
Well, I think we have to do the numbers. We've got to figure out what it is. But what we do know is 65 is way too low and we need to increase that. We need to do it according to life expectancy.
Even Nikki's
That's an ass, okay? She can't get Shirley can't get it. Na you wanted what? You want the retirement age to be 70? Oh my goodness. What an ass. What about, like cutting corporate tax cuts? Cut those corporate tax cuts for the rich. Diba? Well, I mean, that's my left-wing talking point, but that's how I see it in the way to avoid inflation. Oh my goodness, this makes me laugh. Internet if one wonders if Vec and Mayor Pete in same CIA. Asshole. You idiots. Ikaw naman kasi McConnell, please. Goddamn, retire already. But yeah, it's not gonna happen. I think he will die in office. Most likely. And then of course the state legislature will have has the ability now to appoint someone from their own party instead of letting Governor Bashir appoint someone. Sayang naman. They really timed it off well. I'll give credence to that for the Republican state legislature in Kentucky. Okay. Ano nga ba hanapin ko? Yung kay Trump na cases. Oh my goodness. So, alright. Ano kaya itong ano na to? Tinatry na siya ipa-disqualify kahit hindi pa siya na-convict of the crime alleges accused to him.
We finally have some concrete movement on the issue of a Trump disqualification from appearing on ballots. A long-shot presidential candidate named John Anthony Castro has filed a lawsuit to have Trump rendered ineligible for the 2024 ballot in New Hampshire, given his Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution would prohibit anyone who engaged in insurrection or aided others who engaged in insurrection from holding state or federal office. According to Castro's court filing, Trump should be judicially declared ineligible to appear on the ballot for having provided aid or comfort to the insurrectionists that violently attacked our U.S. Capitol on January 6th. This results in disqualification from pursuing and or holding any local, state, or federal public office in the U.S. pursuant to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. Now, Castro, who is 39 years old and who won't appear on the primary ballot in all 50 states, has announced that he will file self-funded lawsuits in several more states by the end of the week. He came out and said, quote, "My primary goal is to deny Trump a second term." Interestingly, Castro also filed a lawsuit in Florida seeking to have Trump disqualified. A judge had dismissed that lawsuit for lack of standing, for which Castro has appealed to the 11th Circuit and asked the Supreme Court to rule that he does have standing to sue. Of course, the argument can absolutely be made that Castro does have grounds to sue, and in fact, that argument was made not by some not even close to progressive Federalist Society who suggested that another one of Trump's primary opponents, Chris Christie, was, quote, legally injured by Donald Trump's name being on the ballot because they draw from some similar voters. Christie should sue if necessary to get, then so does Castro, who is in the exact same position. New Hampshire's Secretary of State David Scanlon, a Republican, spoke to NBC about the impending litigation, saying he's, quote, not seeking to remove any names from the presidential primary ballot, but he's trying to figure out what to do about potential challenges that are brewing. And he wasn't the only Secretary of State to speak out. Arizona's Secretary of State Adrian Fontes also spoke about the fact that his office is now figuring out how to handle potential complaints or legal challenges over whether Trump should be allowed to be on the ballot. He said, quote, we have to have final certification of eligible candidates for the primary ballot by December 14th for Arizona's presidential preference election. And because this will ultimately end up in court, we are taking this very seriously. We need to run an election. We need to know who is eligible, and this is of incredible national interest. We aren't taking a position one way or the other. If there are people who want to fight this out, they need to start swinging because I have an election to run. There was also Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, who came out and said this.
The Secretary Benson, I know this.
Damn it. Fucking hell. Tanggal sa ballot si Trump unless ma-convict siya to the RICO, to that bracket, to that ano nga yung tawag doon? Ewan ko, I don't think he done the extortion. Wala naman siya ine-extort. Ano ba? Yeah, I think parang siya ine-extort.
The Secretary Benson, I know this conversation is in its earliest stages with sort of the legal framework being put out there just this week by Ludig and by Professor Tribe. But what questions would you have if this is indeed what the Constitution would require folks like Mr. Raffensperger and yourself to do?
Well, thanks, Nicole. I think that's the right way to frame it right now. And first and foremost, I want to be clear. I'm going to follow the law. What the law says is what is going to dictate how I, and I hope all of my colleagues, proceed. Now, in following the law, that means being very careful, making decisions not from a political standpoint, but from a legal standpoint, and asking questions like about due process. Now, typically, a conviction is used to determine the facts and solidify the facts when someone is deemed ineligible, when there are perhaps thorny issues at play. If we're not going to predicate this on a conviction under the law, then what and how do we ensure due process? How do we define insurrection or rebellion? Who may nation? And what potential guardrails do we need to have in place so that this is not this precedent that could be created if this legal interpretation is adopted? How can we avoid that being weaponized in the future in this era of simply because they disagree with them politically? So this is a really thorny, challenging issue. But and I should emphasize that particularly those of the secretaries in battleground states, I'm going to be talking with Al Schmidt in Pennsylvania, with Cisco Aguilar in Nevada, with Brad Raffensperger, because we know in particular in our states the impact that this decision could have, not just among our voters, but in the nation. And so we're taking this seriously. We're looking at it carefully, and we're weighing all of the thorny issues at play.
All of which is to say, a lot of information has to be gathered by these secretaries of listening, and their opinions are being formed by a raft of constitutional scholars like these.
2024 presidential candidate Asa Hutchinson, who will join me in a bit, he says that Donald Trump might be disqualified from holding office based on the 14th Amendment, which says that U.S. officials who engage in insurrection or rebellion or aid and comfort them cannot hold office again. You were not only an impeachment manager in the January 6th impeachment of Donald Trump, you were a constitutional scholar. So do you agree with Asa Hutchinson on this?
Well, absolutely. And we've been saying all along that section of the 14th Amendment presents a clear and unequivocal statement that anyone who is sworn an oath of office, and by the way, not just a president, but members of Congress and others who hold federal office, who engage in insurrection or rebellion, having sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic, can never serve again in federal or state office. And this was added after the Civil War as a general constitutional principle, and we have to abide by it. Donald Trump was impeached by the House of Representatives for inciting an insurrection against the Union, and then 57 of 100 senators determined as a constitutional fact that Donald Trump had incited an insurrection. So I think you've got robust bicameral, bipartisan majorities that have already established this as a fact. And I agree with the conservative Federalist Society law professors who are out there saying, as well as Mr. Hutchinson, Donald Trump is disqualified just as if he were running and not a born U.S. citizen, or if he were running and he were 24 years old.
But what I want to point out is I'm not even sure he's qualified to be the next president of the United States. And so you can't be asking us to support somebody that's not perhaps even qualified under our Constitution. I'm referring to the 14th Amendment. A number of legal scholars said that he is disqualified because of his actions on January 6th.
So what would you have officials in your state, any other state, do based on the 14th Amendment? Would you have them just leave Trump off the ballot, off the primary ballot, off the general election ballot?
No, there should be a court declaration, and so there would have to be a separate lawsuit that would be filed, in which there would be a finding that the former president engaged in insurrection, and that would disqualify him. That's one avenue. The other way would be that if a spells...
How will this happen? What's almost certain here is that a secretary of state, likely in a blue state, will determine that based on the standards set forth in the Constitution, including the 14th Amendment, Trump